Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, friendos, friendettes, and friendos. I appreciate you clicking on the video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. We're going to be doing a comprehensive analysis and giving you kind of a guide to go by before you jump into this game. Personally, I really enjoy this game, and I find it to be completely different than most of the other games that are in the tactical shooter genre. So let's get right into it. So the one running the show with this entire game is Mountaintop Games. They use veteran developers from Respawn, Epic, Bungie, and so many more. I think personally that benefits the consumer significantly. Having an experienced team that is not new to the developing world is fantastic news, because that has potential to lead to a better product that listens to the consumer, or you in this case, about their product. Another aspect of this that I enjoy personally is the fact that Shroud is also involved in this game. If you don't know Shroud is a professional in several tactical FPS games. He's played at the highest level for several different tactical shooters. He's renowned throughout the pro scene for being incredible, and he's also been a pretty prolific streamer as well. And by involvement, I mean that he is the lead gameplay advisor. Spectre is a 3v3 tactical shooter where each player has two different avatars that they can control, or specters. The main goal is to plant the bomb at one of the two bomb sites and then defend it until it explodes or detonates. The last thing that you want is the other team to defuse your bomb. Pretty simple, right? Now let's talk about the graphics. The character models seem to have a more Borderlands type look to them, which I always thought that was really interesting when I started looking at this game and started to play it. I really enjoy that comic book feel, and I feel that it fits the vibe of the game. The maps themselves have a lot more detail than the characters do, which I actually think adds to how fantastic this is and how realistic they made this in the sense of like bringing comic book to life. With that being said about maps, let's just jump right into how many maps you got. So there's 4 different maps. You have Commons, Metro, Skyway, and Mill. I personally think that Metro is the coolest map that they've released so far. With the design of these maps, I do think that it's interesting because it builds a different dynamic. You have 3 people playing as 2 characters. With that being said, I think that mid control is pretty vital in your efforts in taking a site, because you also need site presence. So you need to be pushing at a main, but you also need a push in mid to make sure that nobody wraps on you. Another aspect about this game that I find really fantastic is the fact that you can actually edit your character's appearance. Not just one of them either, it's both of them. Both of them can have their own unique look however you decide to build it. Now let's talk about abilities. Instead of having different classes like controller, sentinel, duelist, those types of things, there are 8 different sponsors, and each of them have different abilities that you can use if you so choose. There's Morgan United, which I find to be my favorite, and that is controller type. So you're thinking more smokes. Riker Industries, which is more of a sentinel type, which is more focused on site control. Bloom Industries, a mix of controller and a sentinel. They also have a healing ability. Pinnacle International, this one is more of a duelist type. So you're thinking more entry frag or flashbangs or something along those lines. Vector Dynamics, which is also a duelist type. Ghost Link Collective, which is more of a controller, but you have a wall instead of a smoke. I might be saying this one wrong, but Mu Robotics or Mu? I'm not sure. This one is more of a healer or a duelist type. And the only reason why I say healer first is because they have a robot that can heal you and your teammate. And then you have Umbra Reconnaissance. This is more of an intel type. So you're just trying to get information with playing this class. And now next, I think that this is one of the coolest dynamics and one of the major things that allures to me in this type of game, the crew system. It's still in beta right now. I really enjoy the aspect of it because it centers the focus around being in a team, which is exactly the type of mentality you want to bring to a game like this. So the crew system is a weekly engagement-based system. You simply earn points just for playing matches. And after each match, you can score anywhere between 8 and 23 points. You earn more points by winning, obviously, queuing ranked, playing with crewmates, or your friend. When you play in these crews, you join a team of 50 to 60 people, and you compete with each other to try and reach the top of the leaderboard in the amount of points that you actually earn. Now, that being said, you are not just competing with other people, your team is competing against all the other crews in your division. So the team that ends up getting the most points has a reward, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So every crew belongs in a league, and it's essentially a pyramid of 7 divisions. You have Challenger, Division 6 through Division 2, and then Championship. And how your crew does that week dictates whether or not you move up or down Obviously, you want to get to championships. So these competition actually end up allowing you to progress your cosmetics just by getting more fans and fame from being high up on the leaderboard in these crews and things like that. And with that being said, the crews themselves recognize the top players in each crew. They call them crew stars. These people are awarded more bonus points for fame, and they're also given more fans. At the end of the season, everybody gets a gun charm and possibly a spray, depending on how well you did. Now let's talk about the buy system. The buy system is a relatively confusing interface when you're new. With time, though, it does get easier to navigate and understand what exactly is happening. When you're new to the game, using the recommended weapons that it allows you to pick from isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I think that they're actually viable, and it is useful. You won't be a hindrance to your team if you choose the recommended weapons initially. This will allow you to get a good basis of understanding on how to use these weapons and what you should be buying for what rounds and things like that. Just like any tactical shooter, watching your economy can be pretty tough at first, but with time you learn the cost of things and can buy for yourself instead of using the recommended. With that being said, being more specific now, let's talk about how many different buy sections there are. So you have 6 different buy sections. This includes the pistols, which is the first buy that you make. It simply goes from tier 1 to tier 5. Each tier has 3 different options, and from my understanding, it gets gradually more expensive as you choose weapons that are more effective in general overall. Now for armor. There are 2 options for armor. You have light and heavy armor, and it is exactly how it sounds. You have less armor if you buy the light, and if you buy the heavy armor, you have more armor. If you used any abilities in your rounds, you'll need to purchase them again for the next round. Now let's talk about weapons. I know that I've talked about it in previous videos, but overall, horizontal recoil is the hardest thing that I'm still getting used to because it's a little bit more egregious in this one than it is in most other tactical FPS games. Some weapons have actually increased hip-fire accuracy. This can be beneficial in your character movement, making you harder to hit, but you are more accurate than the other person that is shooting at you if they don't have a gun that is also like that. Now, for most games in this genre, aiming down sight can be a hindrance. In this game, it is actually preferred that you aim down sight for any altercation that isn't right in your face. From what I've noticed, there's pretty minimal penalty for moving and shooting, if there is one at all, frankly. I couldn't find anything about it, but when I tested it on the range, I feel like there was a little bit of movement error, but I don't think it was very bad by any means. It was still a fairly tight spread. There's also things like heat checks on some of the weapons, where if you shoot too much and too quickly, you'll have an overheat. So in summary, this game is truthfully well crafted, and the developers were very meticulous with going through each small thing that could affect the feel of the game. There are so many personal aspects to this game, such as the weapon choice, how they decide to move, and all those things like that allow for a very personalized feel of how this game plays for certain people. There actually feels like a good variation in each match because of the amount of personalization that comes with the way that you shoot your weapon, what weapon you choose, how you decide to move with that weapon, the angles you decide to hold. All these sorts of things factor in. Truth be told, I wasn't exactly super excited about the fact that there were only 4 maps initially. But with that being said, it's not really a negative because you're allowed to get intimate knowledge of all 4 of these maps immediately. And with there being 8 sponsors, it plays different in match to match. And then you have to remember that this is a freshly produced game. There are more maps to come. So by no means do I think that this is a negative on this game or a black mark at all. My favorite aspect about this game, though, just overall, is the fact that I can't accurately describe it using other games to try and compare it. If you haven't played this game, I would have a tough time trying to piece together some games that you might have played to explain how this feels. For me personally, I think that it breaks the mold for tactical FPS, and I find it to be exciting, fun, and just a great overall experience in general. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching the video all the way through. It means the world to me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And if you haven't tried out Spectre Divide, comment down below exactly why you haven't tried it out. It's a free-to-play game. Give it a shot. Catch you guys next time. I love you. I'm proud of you, and you should be proud of you too. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here.